No, I'm not a big fan of over manipulating the sounds. The sound should be good from the source. If you've got the right microphone in the right place on a certain instrument, you should be kind of getting close. Even with flat EQ, it should be good. Normally go along all the high pass filters of the console to clean up all the low end before I even start. You know, what's the point of having cymbals go all the way down? They're obviously going to not work in the lower frequencies, so you high pass them. And I can do that without even hearing them. So, you know, you may be high passing at 300 to 400 hertz, maybe all the way round on the high pass knob. I know the hi-hat isn't going to want all the low end into it because that'll be going bump, bump, bump every time the guy bangs his foot on the riser. So you can do that kind of thing. Guitars, I know I'm going to go all the way down either. They're probably going to be high-passed around 100, 150, somewhere there, same as vocals, the kick drum. I use two microphones. I use 91 for the high frequency and I use a D6 for the low frequencies. I know that the D6 is going to have a cut in the EQ somewhere, anywhere from 130 to 200 hertz, depending on the kick drum. So I'm always ready with a filter there to take out those frequencies. And of course, I can't tell how much of those frequencies I'm going to take out until I actually hear it. But I do know there will be something there. I know that there's going to have to be a shelf in the high end on the kick drum, probably starting 5 or 6K, quite a lot of it. Then depending on the speaker system and all the rest of it, it may need another high frequency boost in around the 3 to 5K region. Might need a little peak putting in there just to give it the attack. But that's the kind of thing you do when you're actually listening to it. But I know the numbers of what need to happen, basically. Gating, I mean, you know, it's to clean up the sound. When you have a band that's very noisy on stage, you have to employ a lot of gating. So yes, absolutely, lots of gating. Well, I can honestly say that the only thing not gated on the drum kit are the overheads and the hi-hat. Of course, you have to learn to use gates. Attack times, you know, for percussive instruments need to be very fast. Decay times, they need to be varied depending on how much you want the tom-tom to go on for, or how long do you want the kick drum to sound for. Does it want to be a big thud that rings on, or does it want to be a short, powerful punch? So no, absolutely, I use gates to shape sounds. And the same with compression. But compression tends to be more probably in the form of a limiter than actual compression. Okay, I can compress to make an acoustic guitar, keep the notes all there, and the same for bass guitar. But for vocal and stuff like that, I'm not trying to bring out the breath sounds of a voice. I'm literally trying to stop it getting too loud in the PA. If you start introducing running vocals in constant compression in order to level them like you would in a studio, you're going to lift up the noise floor on stage, which is going to bring up a lot of background noise. Now, I have normally 12 vocal mics all sitting there for one guy to sing into, pretty much. So they're all over the stage, and some of them are in front of the PA. So I cannot run those vocals in constant compression, because as soon as he walked away from them and the compression lifted off, you would just be adding all the background noise. I tend to use it more for the fact that if he shouts or gets loud, it will hold it back in the PA so it doesn't get too loud. And then, of course, when he sings normally, it's not running in compression. I don't use plugins because the Midas platform doesn't support any external plugins like Waves. I mean, I know the guys from Waves. I have used their stuff, and it's fantastic, some of it. But of course, Midas does its own plugins, if you like. So they're building a bigger library of that all the time. But no, I'm not a big fan of over manipulating the sounds. The sound should be good from the source. I'm a little bit more of a Puritan. I want to hear the microphones and speakers and amplifiers. I don't use samples, you know. I don't want to sample kick drum. I don't want to sample snares and toms. I don't do any of that. because I want the pure sound. When you start putting in all these things that crunch, squash, chop it up, do whatever to it, I think you start stepping a little bit too far away from the original. With the fractals, I was a little bit strange about the fractal guitar sounds because I was always about the microphones and speakers and amplifiers. And then to suddenly go to this emulated guitar sound didn't seem right. Fortunately, it's really good, so it's emulated the guitar sounds and the amplifiers and all the rest of it really well. So I think that's a new place that I'm going. I'm learning more that you can do this. But I like real sounds with microphones. It's all changing constantly, actually, because I mean, there's new systems coming along all the time. At the moment, I'm really into the Maya Leo system. Very easy to use, really precise, and incredibly powerful. If not that, I like the L-Acoustic K1 system. That's a great sounding system with the SB28 subs. They sound fantastic too. The D&B system, the J series, that also sounds really good. Slightly in a different way, but nice all the same. So there's many different systems that all have different things going for them. But I think my favourite at the moment is the Leo system. I like to use a DN6000 Clark Technic spectrum analyzer, which gives me a visual picture. It's one of the very old ones. It's an old unit compared to the new ones. It's a reinforcement for what I think using my ears. So when I've looked at the screen when it's been a really good show, I can see the picture that sound makes. So there's a target right there. If I see this picture on the analyzer, then I'm sort of getting close to where I need to be. You know, I listen to it and I think, yeah, that sounds like Metallica. That's how it should be. And then I look at the analyzer and I'm like, yeah, that's a confirmation that that's the picture that I see when it sounds good. It's not that finite, though. It's not the kind of thing where you can go, oh, look, just that one frequency. No, it's not like that. I switch the averaging speed on that. I might average it for a minute or 2 minutes, and you can see frequencies that build up at certain places, because sometimes you'll be listening to a mix and you'll be like, there's something not quite right about that, but you can't put your finger on what it is. It's like, and it's normally a summation of frequencies in guitars and, you know, and that kind of thing, maybe in the vocal too, where the PA may have a little bit too much 500 hertz or a little much 250 hertz, and it's kind of hard to tell which input has that on, and you're like, well, is it an individual input or is it like the overall PA? Well, if you switch an analyzer to slow average, first of all, it starts to show that frequency that's sticking out all the time. If I see that repeatedly, I'll go to the system EQ and I'll just take out a little bit of that frequency and listen and think, yeah, well, that's what I was after. It's the sound of Midas. The XL4 was a fantastic console, the best analog console out of all of them, for many reasons. The mic pre's just have the right attitude about them, from, you know, unbreakable and being bulletproof, just fantastic. So then I moved on to the digital because it was time, and that Midas sound came with that digital console, and more than fantastic. I mean, I really like the way the console sounds, the EQ, the way their mic pre sound. Midas just make fantastic sounding consoles, and that's no detriment to anybody else. I did the sound for Led Zeppelin at the O2 Arena, 2007, I think it was 2008, and it's just a one-off concert. I'd like to do that one more time. Particularly, it's more of a technical angle. I actually think that I could do it better now. Because rehearsing for 5 weeks to do one show, and then you're suddenly thrown in the deep end. It normally takes, when you go on tour, it'll take you a few weeks to get everything to settle down, playing concerts, you know, the band playing the same song the same way, you adjust things, and it eventually gets to be really comfortable. But it takes a few shows to get to that. So when you do a one-off show, just one gig, and you've got to make it all happen in that one gig, it's very difficult to just pull that out the hat. And I think we did okay, but I'd just like to do it one more time, because I have a few other ideas I'd like to try. Listen. That's what I'm saying. Just listen. Take your eyes off the computer screens for a minute and actually sit back and listen to what you're doing. And listen closely, and your mix will get better. And that's about it, really. Listen. That's going to be my message for the next few years, is everybody's got to listen more closely. Stop taking things for granted and listen to what you're doing.